Leeds United are coming to Old Trafford, and I need you to think about what that actually means right now. Not just the rivalry, not just the history, but what this game means for both clubs at this exact moment in this exact season. Because on one side, you have Manchester United, a team that has been quietly, genuinely transformed since January, unbeaten at home, playing with belief, playing with a clear identity under Michael Carrick, pushing hard for Champions League football. You have a Leeds United side that is, and I'm going to be honest here, fighting for their lives. One point is potentially all that separates them from the relegation zone when that referee blows that whistle on Monday night. So let's not pretend this is just another fixture. This is not just another fixture. This is a clash where one team is climbing back toward the summit of European football and another team is desperately trying not to fall through the floor of English football. And that tension, that contrast, that is what makes Monday night so compelling. Now, before I go any deeper into this, because trust me, we are going deep tonight, I'm Bella. And if you're new here, this channel is where we actually think about Manchester United, not just react, not just clap or cry. We think, we analyse, we go beyond the headlines. If that sounds like your kind of content, and I think it is, otherwise, why are you still here? Hit that subscribe button and leave a like on this video. It genuinely helps more than people realise. Now, let's get into it. Let me start with something that I think is being massively underrated in the build-up to this game. Manchester United have not played a competitive match since the 20th of March. Think about that. That is 24 days without a game. 24 days. For context, that is basically a full month sitting in between their last match and Monday night. And yes, there's been an international break. Yes, FA Cup quarter-final weekend took up a slot, but still nearly a month of no competitive football for this United squad. Now, the question I keep asking myself is that a good thing or a bad thing for Carrick's side? And here's where I think the conversation gets interesting. Because on the surface, you'd say the break helped. Players returning from injury, Martinez back in training, Mason Mount getting minutes under his belt again, the squad sharpening up in Dublin. And by the way, that Dublin training camp detail tells you something about how seriously Carrick is taking this period. You don't fly your squad to Ireland for 4 days unless you are absolutely laser focused on what's coming. But here's the other side of that coin: rhythm, match rhythm. There is something about momentum, about the physical and mental sharpness that only comes from playing games that no training camp fully replicates. And United, as good as they've been at home, did drop points at Bournemouth before this break. They were held to a 2-2 draw. And that's not a disaster, but it showed moments of vulnerability. It showed a team that, when pressed, when challenged physically, can still look uncertain. So the real question isn't whether United are ready. Of course they're ready. The question is, are they sharp enough to break down a Leeds side who, yes, are struggling in the league, but who have shown they can frustrate big teams all season long? And that's a different question entirely. Now let's talk about the defensive situation at Old Trafford, because for me, this is the most fascinating subplot of Monday's game. Harry Maguire is suspended. And look, I have had my moments with Maguire over the years. I think every United fan has. But what I will say is this: under Carrick, he has been important. He has been a leader in that back line. He organises, he communicates, he brings experience. And losing him for a game of this magnitude against a physical Leeds side is not nothing. That is a real absence. So who partners Lenny Yoro? That is the question. And there are two realistic answers. Either Lisandro Martinez, who has only just returned from a calf injury that kept him out for 5 games, or Aiden Heaven, the teenager, the kid who came on after Maguire's red card at Bournemouth and held things together. Now, here's what fascinates me about that decision. If Carrick plays Martinez, and I think he will, I think he's essentially betting that a player who has had almost no game time in weeks is immediately ready for a high-pressure, physically intense Premier League clash against a side that will target set pieces, will go direct, and will make your centre-backs work for 90 minutes. That is a gamble, a calculated one, but a gamble. And if it doesn't come off, if Martinez looks rusty, looks a step slow, looks like someone who needed another week, then you're looking at a very uncomfortable evening defensively. But then again, think about what Martinez brings when he's at his best. That intensity, that aggression, that absolute refusal to let anyone get in behind him. For me, a slightly undercooked Martinez is still better than most alternatives available right now. And the alternative, Aiden Heaven alongside Yoro, is 2 teenagers in your backline in a game where Leeds United are literally fighting for Premier League survival. No pressure, lads. But here's the part that nobody is really talking about enough. Diogo Dalot, listed as a doubt, because Dalot was ill during the Dublin camp. He didn't travel. And if Dalot doesn't make it for Monday night, that is a significant problem in terms of the right-back position and how United build from the back. Because the way United play under Carrick, the way they use their fullbacks in possession, the way they try to create width and overloads, Dalot is central to that mechanism on the right side. If he's missing, someone else has to fill in, and whoever that is will be figuring it out in real time against a Leeds press that, when it's working, is genuinely intense and well organised. Tell me if I'm wrong here, but I think the Dalot situation is actually one of the most important team news updates coming into Monday's game, more important than some people are giving it credit for. Now let's cross the divide, let's talk about Leeds, because this is not a simple story. Daniel Farke's side came into this week on the back of something genuinely special. They knocked West Ham out of the FA Cup in a penalty shootout. They're in the semi-finals. They're going to Wembley to face Chelsea. And for a club like Leeds, a club that has been grinding, fighting, scrapping at the bottom end of this table, that matters. That does something to the mood of a dressing room. But here's the brutal irony of that FA Cup victory. They won the battle, and they might have lost 2 soldiers in the process. Anton Stach, Joe Rodon, both injured in that game at West Ham. And when I say Stach's injury, this was not a knock. This was not a minor concern. Farke was talking about ankle ligaments. Stach was on crutches. He was wearing a protective boot after the game. That is serious. That is potentially weeks, not days. And Rodon, their captain, their defensive organiser, the man who has held that backline together during their best moments this season, gone as well. So Leeds arrive at Old Trafford for one of the 7 hardest remaining fixtures on their calendar, without their midfield engine and without their defensive leader, in a relegation battle. At a ground where they haven't won since 2002, that is a lot to process. Now, here's what Farke has to figure out, and I actually think this is genuinely interesting from a tactical standpoint. Farke has built this Leeds side around a back 3. It's been his identity since November. Structured, compact, hard to break down, and it's worked. They've held Liverpool, they've held Aston Villa away, they've taken points from places where people expected nothing. But that defensive system only really functions when you have the right personnel in it. Rodon was central to that. Bajol and Bornau and Streak around him. That whole unit has a rhythm, has a chemistry that took months to build. Now strip Rodon out, add the doubts around Bajol and Bornau and Goodmanson, because yes, all 3 of those players are doubts as well. Farke actually said that if the game were played any earlier, those 3 wouldn't be available either. He's hopeful they recover, but hopeful is not confirmed. So you could be looking at a Leeds back 3 that is genuinely cobbled together from whoever is fit enough to stand upright on Monday evening. And this changes everything about how United should approach this game tactically. Because if Leeds are depleted defensively, if their backline is unfamiliar, slightly uncertain, not quite at full communication, then United's job is straightforward in principle. Get the ball wide, get crosses in early, make Perry work, and use the pace of Mbeumo and Ahmad to attack the channels aggressively. Now, both Mbeumo and Sesko pulled out of international duty, right? That was the news, and a lot of people panicked about that. I know I had a moment of concern, but the update from the Dublin camp is that both are fit, both are in the squad, both trained, but trained is different from match sharp. This is my concern with this United attack going into Monday. You've got Mbeumo, who is clinical when he's in rhythm. You've got Sesko, who is powerful, awkward for defenders, brilliant on his day. You've got Ahmad and Bruno Fernandes in that creative layer. On paper, that's a frightening forward line, but none of them have played competitive football in nearly a month. And Leeds, for all their defensive problems, are going to sit in. They have to sit in. They cannot come to Old Trafford and try to match United in an open game. That would be suicidal. So United need to be patient. They need to break down a low block. And breaking down a low block when your attackers are slightly short of match sharpness, that's where things can get frustrating. That's where you can waste possession. That's where the crowd can turn twitchy. And a twitchy Old Trafford does not always help a United team that still carries some emotional fragility from this season. But here's something I want to flip around completely, because I've been talking about United's challenges, and they're real. I'm not dismissing them. But let's be clear about what is also true. Manchester United at Old Trafford under Michael Carrick have been flawless, absolutely flawless. No defeats, no collapses, no moments of the kind of total disintegration we saw earlier this season. This has been a genuine fortress, a home record that honestly, if you'd offered it to us back in October when everything felt like it was falling apart, we'd have taken it with both hands, and there's a reason for that. It's not luck, it's structure, it's belief, it's a team that knows what it's supposed to do at home and actually does it. For me, the biggest single factor in this game is not the injuries, not the lineups, not even the form, it's mentality. Man United at Old Trafford have a mentality right now. They believe they're going to win those games. That's not something you can fake. That's something that's been built over weeks of results. Leeds, meanwhile, haven't won a league match in 2 months. 2 months. You can talk about FA Cup momentum all you want, and yes, it counts for something, the confidence of winning a shootout, the belief of reaching a Wembley semi-final, but Premier League survival is a different kind of pressure. It's constant, it's grinding, and right now Leeds need league wins, and they haven't had one since February. Let me ask you something directly. Do you think Leeds can take anything from this game? And I'm not asking whether you want them to. I'm asking whether you genuinely think the ingredients are there for a result, because here's my honest assessment, and I say this as a United fan who's watched Leeds cause problems this season. Away at Chelsea, they took a point. Away at Liverpool, they took a point. Away at Aston Villa, no defeat. This is a team with a defensive identity that, when functioning properly, can absorb pressure and pinch something on the break. But, and this is the critical but, that defensive identity requires the personnel to be right. Stack in midfield protecting the back three. Rodon anchoring the defence. Those two players doing their jobs. Without them, I don't see where the resistance comes from. I think Dominic Calvert-Lewin gives United problems aerially. I genuinely do. He's the one Leeds player I'd be watching if I'm Lenny Yoro or whoever is partnering him. Calvert-Lewin has been clinical at home this season, 6 goals in 7 home league games. That's a player who is confident. That's a player who wants the ball in dangerous areas. But away from home, in front of a full and hostile Old Trafford crowd, against a United defence that, even in its patched up state, is more experienced than most of what Leeds have faced on the road, I think United handle him. I think they handle this Leeds attack. Now let me talk about something bigger than just this one game, because there is a narrative developing around this United squad that I think deserves a proper moment of conversation. This is a team in transition, a real genuine transition, not the fake transition that gets announced every summer and then nothing really changes, but an actual shift in identity, in structure, in how they play and what they stand for. Carrick has done something in a short period of time that deserves proper credit. He's taken a squad that was confused, that was tactically all over the place, that was emotionally exhausted, and he's built a platform, he's built a home record, he's built a belief, and now we're talking about Champions League football next season as a realistic expectation, not a hope and expectation. Think about where we were in January, think about the mood. The atmosphere around the club was genuinely dark. And now in April, we're talking about sealing a top 3 finish, about returning to the Champions League, about a summer where this club can build properly from a stable foundation. That is remarkable, genuinely remarkable. And this game, Monday night, Leeds at Old Trafford, is another chance to cement that, another chance to make a statement, not just to the table, but to the dressing room, to the squad, to the belief that is slowly, carefully being rebuilt at this football club. Here's where I land on this game. My honest verdict, I think United win. Comfortably, actually. And I say comfortably not because I'm dismissing Leeds. I never dismiss Leeds in this fixture. The history is too complicated for that, but because the ingredients align too heavily in United's favour. Home ground advantage, a fortress record, a squad returning to fitness at the right moment, a Leeds side missing key players at the worst possible time. My score prediction is 3-1. And I think if United are switched on from the first whistle, if they don't sit back, if they take the game to Leeds early, it could be even more one-sided. The 1 goal Leeds might score, set piece, almost certainly, because that's where their best moments have come all season, and that's where a makeshift United defence might look uncertain. But I don't think 1 goal saves Leeds here. I think United get 3. But let me leave you with the bigger picture. Because this game, as important as it is one of 7 remaining for United. 7 games to finish this season, correct? 7 games to send a message about what this club is becoming under Carrick. After Leeds, it's Chelsea away, then Brentford at home, then Liverpool at home. These are not easy games. These are the kinds of games that define a season. And the way United handle Monday night, the manner of the performance, the energy, the clinical edge tells us something about whether they're truly ready for what's coming. Because Champions League football next season isn't the destination, it's the starting point, it's the platform. The real work starts in the summer. The real question is what this club looks like when it's had a proper pre-season, a proper transfer window, a proper plan. And I genuinely believe, and I don't say this lightly because I've been burned before, that this time something feels different, something feels real. This isn't hope. This is faith built on evidence. Monday night is another piece of evidence, another chance to show that Old Trafford is a place opponents fear again. Let's see if the boys deliver. Drop your score prediction in the comments. I've said 3-1. Tell me if you agree or if you think I'm completely wrong. Always love seeing your takes down there. And if you've made it this far, genuinely thank you. Subscribe if you haven't already. There is so much more coming on this channel between now and the end of the season. We are not done, not even close. I'm Bella. This is Bella Mufc Analysis. I'll see you after the final whistle.